There.
And we're gonna be probably getting started here shortly. We'll wait and see if we can get at least one more person in here. But I want to say we have a quorum. It's at 5. Although, I don't know if I have a vote since I'm president of it, but I think I do.
So you're not a cool guy?
It's because I'm the coolest guy.
The shoeless. Dang!
The student senator president has a vote in the student senate.
Oh, there you go.
That says it.
Nice, that's good.
So are you wondering about who?
Todd. I'm just sending Todd a message to let him, to see if he was coming, because he said he was going to. And I know Adam's going to be late. Alyssa can't be here because she has class. Jen's not going to be here because she has a school board meeting. And I think that's everybody coming.
Yeah? Word?
So since we have a quorum, we can go ahead and get started. It is 5:04. So first on the agenda here is approval of meeting minutes from
All motion to approve that.
okay.
I'll second that motion.
Second motion. I will, before we move on to the vote, I will add that a change to X name to Aspen Eck.
Yep.
In the minutes should be going forward.
Aspen Eck,
Yeah.
UCK,
Yep.
Aspen like the tree.
Yep.
You got it.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All righty. For additions, we did have a request by Ms. Lovely Frederica to come up and give us, talk to us. So we'll add that into the agenda here. Frederica, would you prefer to go first, in the middle? Where would you like to go?
Well, I can't say home or to the park, right? I don't know if you guys have to do voting for a new chair for the year first, or you want to wait for more people here, right? So they do a chair every year? Check into it and come back, okay?
Okay.
What are you asking again? I'm sorry, I was typing.
A lot of the different committees are voting on their chair, their officers. After the start of the year, some had new members and stuff. But me, for all kinds of reasons and whatnot, I would suggest you have more people here, in case they want to run or whatever. So you might want to check in with that. I thought it was an annual thing for all the committees and commissions and boards.
We've had so many changes.
I was gonna say, for some reason, it's ringing a bell that we did ours in the summer. That's why I didn't put it on the agenda.
I'm ringing bells.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
No bells ringing.
no bells ringing,
I mean, in
and
terms of like a president, vice president, or what, chairs, or
Yeah.
secretary, because
yeah, I know that.
please let's take that over.
Yes, yeah, so we have the transition of secretary going over to Adam, as we agreed when we did the last
Yeah.
vote. Yeah, I did not get any mention of new officers, so,
It's a good
I,
idea to wait till more people are here.
yes, yeah. So at this time, we'll hold off from adding it to the agenda. So any other additions from anybody? No? Okay. Well, Frederica, if you'd like to
Sure.
come on off first.
Can you tell me your name? I'm sorry.
It's Frederica Musgrave. And Morgan knows how to spell it. I live over, it's supposed to be official on 30 West Shagawa Road, the dead end, which is what I had to do. I moved to Ely for a variety of reasons, and one of the prime ones was I like to hear the black of birdwings, their songs, and also the critters in the area. And I moved on that place on the dead end street because I have parks and trails on both sides of me. 5 minutes away, I'm walking. So any development around that area, I do get worried about just in general. I didn't mean to say that at first, but I had to introduce myself. what I want to start off and say is, I think you guys are doing an absolute beautiful job, this commission. Some of you know I record some of the commissions, and I voluntarily do it because I believe in transparency. And transparency because I think the citizens and the residents should see what you're doing, all the commissions, but also, I kind of shake inside. You are so beautiful and wonderful the way you conduct your meetings, and the way people come in here, are invited to speak and join in. I feel like this is really Ely. This commission embodies Ely. I'm sorry, I try not to be emotional, but I do have a little bit of water in me, because it is so refreshing to see, and not just that you're happy and everyone gets along, it doesn't say anything wrong. I really like it that you disagree and discuss things, and look over and have questions, and you don't want to just move over for just the sake of getting something done, that you really hash it out, and that I get to learn about people who are on the commission and not who talk about what they're doing, including Bill Tech. I wanted to come and talk after telling you how great you were. I wanted to make some suggestions. I used to be on the Environment and Natural Resources Commission in Maplewood, and obviously a bigger city and stuff like that. And I've observed the commissions, how they work, and also there. And so I wanted to make some suggestions because I would like you to do more than just represent the, I'll call it ethos spirit. What I'd like you to do is to actually take a little bit more power and voice yourself a little bit more to the rest of the community. And the thing is, you guys aren't into power, which is really, really nice. And I think that of nature and a few other things. But basically, what I want to do is make some suggestions. First of all, on your minutes, I would like you to use the email system the way it should be done legally, and check with the city on that, so that you send emails out the proper way to everyone so they can review the minutes, make changes, and you as a group vote on them. Because what happens is your minutes can take 2 months to get to council, or even a month. And a lot of things you're doing, you're so, I don't think it's gonna, it's not that urgent. It is, everything's urgent. You guys are very important. You embody the spirit of the city. Whether I agree with everything you do or not, the city and the environment around here. Okay? And there is a way, without being into power, but basically of relaying to people what you're doing. And I'm doing the recording, but also your minutes are important. Okay? So please think about that, and feel free, because the next thing I wanted to talk about was motions. Motions, making a motion, discussing it, and voting on it is, believe it or not, a step of power. I have to think of a different word. Assertiveness? But basically, when you come up with things, you don't have to have the details or the specifics, but you say, we would like to investigate or turn more of these open spaces, change the designation so that they're used for parking recs, okay? But anyway, in general, please use the motions to reflect what you believe, because you represent the spirit of the city. And if you don't do the motions, council and others don't know what you're really saying and representing, because it's not down there. They don't read all the minutes. As if you watch city council, they don't read it all, but they do address the motions. Okay? Again, it doesn't have to be specific. You can just say, we would like the city to give us information about all of the open spaces, the coding, because they're going to do the coding. Something like that. The other is, because I've been watching planning and zoning, and you can get my opinions and whatnot online if you read my YouTubes and the blog stuff that I post on the website. But basically, they have been focusing on coding for commercial and development. not for you guys. And that's because you haven't had a motion, okay? It's not gonna hurt anyone, and they can do that or not do that, but you have voiced something to protect places here designate them for park and rec, okay? Doesn't mean they have to do specifically, so please, at some point, I couldn't say that before, so I'm gonna come tonight and talk about those things. Okay, and one of the things for me is, about these motions, is listening again to Bill Tech. I mean, listening to people talk, you guys talk, your presenters, I learned so much. But listening to Bill about the areas over there by Miners Lake and elsewhere, who's talking about him? He is, and nothing happens. It doesn't reach council. Okay? And I want to remind you, in my opinion, you are not subordinate to planning and zoning. You are equal. If you talk about spirit, you're higher. Okay? If you talk about development, maybe lower. But you are there representing the citizens, in my opinion. Okay? That's pretty radical. And also nature. So please think about that, some of the stuff that Bill Teft mentioned. Bring it up. The other is the noise ordinance. And again, this was brought up at planning and zoning, and they decided not to do something about it. I didn't have time to check when it was last summer, what have you. But they didn't want to set the ordinance up for noise because they didn't like what the state noise ordinance was. At their last meeting, they decided that they're not going to deal with the noise ordinance. And for me, the noise ordinance is important for a variety of reasons, and that is I moved here to hear the flap of birds' wings, their songs, and critters. Okay? There's no noise ordinance for me or for you if you believe in that. Okay? And I'm not an expert. I don't have time to go through and find out what the state and stuff is. But what I'm saying is, basically, come up, if you could, with some motions. Become perhaps a little bit aware of what's going on, but what I'd like you to do is get involved in the coding and stuff. We do have developments coming up. I know there were some issues with ZUPs regarding some noise and stuff, and then at planning and zoning they were talking about commercial and residential and noise and all kinds of stuff. But what do we need to have as noise ordinances for these public open spaces, if you want them, okay? The other thing here, oh, I already said that. Be proactive if you can. You are not subordinate to planning or zoning and any other group, okay? You represent the spirit of the city and nature here, okay? Doesn't mean I have to agree. I'm going to say that again and again and again because I want to push you to do that. And the other thing is, very interesting, is the city does have a projects committee, commission, board, whatever it's called. And what I would like you to do is to think about using them so not all of the efforts from the project are for developments, massive developments. Okay? I won't get into politics and all that. But basically, I know they do trails. But I'm thinking again of Bill, talking to you guys about birding over there in Miners Lake or somewhere else in the city, because I'm a birder, okay? Of having a bench there or a sign. That projects do that. And again, you guys have to work it out. And again, be proactive if you believe in that or any of these other things. Because all I'm really seeing is trails and development, big development, going to projects. And you can spend their money too, or they can help you present stuff for whatever projects you want, okay? And the last thing, at the P&Z meeting, the last one I had to post it still online, but they had the city attorney come in and talk about procedures and conflicts of interest. And one of the things that came up was very interesting, and I have it on YouTube, it's not available public yet. I have to review it on the wording, because the way I heard it, it is possible that the city attorney was telling the commissioners that they can't vote on something if they haven't been in attendance. Okay, so I don't know if that means, you know, the voice phone vote while you're going on, or just in general, because right now you have some people not here. Okay, so if they miss this whole meeting, they can't vote next time or whatever. I have some issues with that, and that's why I wanted to bring it to you, because I am lobbying that all the city meetings be recorded by the city, not by me. But I just wanted you to be aware of that, because there's no connection between you and the other committees on what's going on. And so I thought I wanted to share that. So that said, as I say, you guys are really awesome. Thank you. I just feel so good after meetings here. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I guess I do just have a couple of follow-up with like statements and questions about some of the things that you brought up, Frederica. So when you're talking about the emailing for the minutes, so our minutes, once we finish with our meetings, our secretary, either Bud or Adam, will be taking over here pretty soon. They finish up the minutes, they look through to make sure that they didn't miss anything, and then they send that over to Casey. Those minutes, once they get to Casey, you still do not get approved until our next meeting, let alone by the time that then they need to go to council. I would want to check in with either Harold, Casey, or, because I'm not sure about when it comes to the legal aspect of it, if those minutes prior to being approved by our commission, and then also approved by council, if they are, you know, active minutes, or if they are able to be shared publicly. Our agendas, I get those out as quickly as I can once I have them. With our meetings, once we get the minutes approved by us and then by council, I know that those are all on the website, and then thank you so much for coming in and recording. Because that is a big thing, for it to be transparent, for it to be up on YouTube, and I know that you are emailing it out as well, to make sure that people are aware. And thank you also in your emails for breaking it down of like, this is what happens with this one, and this is what happens with this commission, and at this time in the minutes. So thank you for doing all of this voluntary work also.
Thank you. Can I respond before you go on to the next thing? On the minutes, at council, minutes from commissions are brought and posted in a council packet a few days after the commissions met. And many of the minutes are posted before they're officially approved. And the thing on a lot of these minutes too, it doesn't say officially approved on them. Sometimes some groups say draft, but basically before they meet again. And it's like in one, it was a meeting, a commission meeting, and then the next day it was in the council packet. Okay, just so you have a perspective of what's going on. If it applies to you, it should apply to the same way to all the commissions, in my opinion.
And so I guess my question is, when you're saying the email with the minutes, what exactly, who's receiving that email? Is it an email to the entire commission, so that way we can review the minutes and look over them prior to our next meeting? Is it an email that gets sent out to that the city sends out? I guess I was a little bit confused about
there's a
when you say
process.
emailing the minutes.
Sorry, there is a process, the open meeting law. There's one that you can follow, and you have to be careful on that, you know, because again, it's interesting that the P&Z meetings where Kelly Clune talked to the commissioners, and I hope to have that posted before this weekend and then put the time markers on it. But basically, there was a really interesting discussion whether the commissioners could talk to each other outside of the meeting or not, and what's best practice. Very interesting meeting for a variety of reasons, because they make major decisions, which you should too. But basically, there is a process in place, there should be, so you don't violate open meeting laws, okay? And so someone in the city should be able to tell you and all the commissions, this is the open meeting process law. So I would guess, I don't know, and maybe no more than me and Adam, but it's also, what's the legal ruling on that, is that you could approve them, I think, via an email vote, but you have to check, I don't know. But it's the thing, if it doesn't get in the council packet that month or that week, then you have to wait. And and you meet every month, or like you didn't meet last month, and that's a long time and stuff. So anyway, you have to do the legal way on open meeting law, and they have to tell you how to do it, okay? So,
And that's the piece, I guess, is, and this is the first that I'm hearing about a potential, I don't want to say issue, but potential issue with it.
mhm.
And I think that, I know Casey would be on our hides about it if we weren't doing it correctly. I know Harold would be on our hide. I'm sure that it would be coming up to council. I'm sure we'd have Kelly Plume coming in to
Mhm.
let us know about this. So thank you for bringing it up. It is something that I do want to look further into, if there is something that would need to change for our meeting purposes. I guess,
Yeah, I forgot one thing, that I didn't mention, is that
yeah,
okay?
sure.
Okay. Again, this is to expedite things, okay? So it gets to council, gets to public, because otherwise your meeting isn't. You guys were involved in contacting the neighborhood regarding the dock and so forth on Miners Lake
Mhm.
and stuff. And what I would like you to do is to check into whether this actually is going to be a new role for you, okay? That if, I have the impression, feeling, watching things, is there might be a change, that this is a thing you should do. And if this is your job, in other words, I don't want to say the word power, but have more influence and more contact with the citizens, that there should be a process that you know about it ahead of time, so it's not last minute, like at that one meeting you had on doing it, so have the time to process it, do it correctly, and also, you don't have to have, in my opinion, a hearing, but basically say, somehow get to the public that this topic is going to come up, and if you want to come and discuss it. I don't know the legal things on that, but just the idea, if this is going to be the process in the future, that you're aware of it so you know what you need to do. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, because it was also said that you guys originated the idea. My impression from, I can't remember if that was in the minutes somewhere or when someone talked, I will have to find it and I'll post that and send it to you. But basically you were asked to do it by the city, so I don't see that as originating. But again, that you have a process for that so you know, because you weren't really certain what you were supposed to do and all kinds of stuff. And it was like, you had to do it right away. I don't like to be rushed. So, thank you.
And for that one there, it was a matter of trying to decipher what was on paper and not having the person here to explain, having Harold, the person who was asking us to make a vote on it.
Right.
There was different interpretations, which is what happens in this day and age with emails, text messages, anything besides a telephone call or in person. Words can be taken in multiple different ways. And so not having somebody here to kind of open that up did make it a little bit more complicated. We did get that information out. As far as I'm aware, I haven't heard anything from Casey and Harold about that. That's later in our agenda here, about if there was any feedback or anything on that. The other thing about, and you're talking about power and wanting to work, that we're level-heading with the other commissions. And we are level-headed with the commissions. But we also want to make sure that even though we are all level, we are still respecting each other, right? We're still wanting to make sure that we're not crossing any lines. We wouldn't want planning and zoning to come in and say, we're going to do something with Whiteside Park, because that's our area of expertise, is Whiteside Park and Park and Rec. It's more of, we're wanting to make sure that we're following, like you mentioned, processes. We're wanting to make sure we're following the right processes. So wanting to make sure that if it is something that needs to come through us, that it's okay to come through us. And it's not us trying to assert dominance or assert power over other commissions. And so I know that it is something that's been, I'm pretty sure it's been brought up with planning and zoning, with our wanting to get more information about the different zones in the park, and as well as the what that stands for. I know that there is work being done on it, but there's nothing at this point that without potentially asserting power where we should not be, please feel free to say otherwise, there's nothing at this point that is Park and Rec with the piece that Bill's been bringing up that we would be able to do at this point.
I think what Frederica is referring to is the streamlining of the process and having clarity in exactly what our duties as a Park and Rec board, what those duties are.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
what the, for instance, perhaps taking more interest in a lot of what is happening at the park or the parks or anything that falls within our umbrella, under our umbrella. And for instance, you know, we don't discuss the skating rink at Whiteside Park during Winterfest. You know, we seem to have a lot of, we're missing a lot that thankfully Harold's able to, you know, pick up these little things that we drop or just pass us by, and he's able to make those things happen. I think what Frederica is really pointing out is taking the initiative to make sure that we're getting involved in those things and being active enough to, you know, show that, okay, yes, this is ours, we're here to manage it, and we're serious about it. I think that's perhaps what she, does that sound accurate?
Yeah, because you're not into power, and so I say you guys are just so beautiful being concerned and wanting to interact with the other people, and it's like setting it so people understand and aren't confused, because you were confused that night, and if that's going to happen in the future, which I think is a great idea, getting citizen input, you know, that the process be set up for that. But yeah, working with the other people, with everyone.
That's just,
Yeah,
you know, codifying a process of public notification under which circumstances, and adapting that into, you know, into how our board functions. So if that's something
Yeah.
that we want to take up, that's, I mean, that's certainly, would we have to have Kelly available to, because in the city code where it outlines our duties, we'd have to add a section about public notification.
Yeah, I think your best bet would be to kind of work on it amongst yourselves. Maybe have it as part of your minutes that this is something you're working on, and then have something proposed for the council. Because anything, you know, involving ordinance change is approved by the council after 2 readings, you know, publishing of it, of course. So yeah, I'd probably work on it internally, put it part of your minutes so the council knows that's something you're looking at. But yeah, what's in the code, as you guys know, is just a rough framework of what the designated duties were for those committees, and those were the duties given to the committee by the council. So you can't kind of self-appoint yourself certain duties or tasks, but through that process, you could bring it forward to the council. The other thing that you could think about too is, as we look to revise our comprehensive land use plan, there is a big section in there for parks and recreation. So some of those goals or some of those other things could be included in the revision to the next comp plan as well. So, because that requires all the committees to participate in, so.
Okay.
Harold, when's that happen?
The comp plan, it'll happen, I think it's up for this year, 2024. So what I can do is get you a copy of the Park and Rec section of the existing comp plan, and then you guys can just kind of have it as an ongoing agenda item, and then over time, kind of redline it up, and the things you want to add or projects you want to see done in the future, you can include it in that comp plan.
Sounds good.
The comp plan is only as good as the committees and the people that are participating in it. So I know the last time we did it, it was a process. It took a couple of years to get all of that added in there, but it's a really good start.
Is like comprehensive?
Comprehensive land use plan.
Wonderful.
I think a little part of the history where you saw the confusion, we had approved the Miners Lake addition there before many of us, not, many of this group were even here. And so I think that contributed to a feeling of we didn't know what was going on a little bit.
Yeah, that was definitely part of it, and, I mean, we try our best to make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on and, what's happened in previous meetings, having the discussion, going over, at every meeting, going over the minutes and making sure that everybody gets a chance to go through and look to make sure we're including everything that was discussed, that we're making sure everybody gets included. Since we have had some people coming in to speak, like Bill Taft coming in the last few meetings and everything. So I thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
And I don't know if all of you recognize that we asked Harold to draft a thing for the paper, and he did it the next day.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a great time to put it in the paper because of the holiday, so it
Yeah.
didn't go in the paper.
Yeah, we've gotten, I think we received 3 comments. We received one from someone that purchased a new lot in the Ely Park area, that were a little concerned with the size of it, the number of spots. And what we showed as a concept was probably the biggest that we could probably fit there. And the thought is, ice fishermen come with a trailer in the winter to have adequate room to turn things around there. And then also, you saw those other comments, some were, to add a bathroom there, have a trash receptacle, have some lighting, so if there's, people down there at night, there's some adequate lighting. So those are the extent of our comments. And what we were hoping to do is get the dead standing balsam cleared out of there here before the end of April, so we're not running into the bat roosting issue with white nose bat syndrome with bats. So that's kind of why we wanted to get that going as soon as we can. So my next step would be to have the guys go out there and flag the area that we'll be removing. So we'll probably do that in the next couple of weeks. But
If it ends up that we, that we put like a porta potty or something out there, or putting that kind of stuff out there, or garbage, is that something that would potentially come out of like Park and Rec's budget, if we have a budget, so to say?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
would that be something that, I'm just wondering for like money wise, if that would be something?
It'd be in the Park and Rec budget.
Okay.
We've got budgets for the rec center, separate budget, and then we got a general Park and Rec budget that does Whiteside Park, Seamers Park, Trezona Trail. We used to have the Pioneer Mine Site was also within that budget, and now that's kind of it's a Historic Preservation Commission that's kind of handling that. So yeah, it's just every place, there is a spot for it. And just for example, ADA restroom, I think, is $125 a month. And obviously there we want to put it there 12 months a year. And then we also have the one over at Trezona parking lot. One thing I do have to warn though, we get a lot of vandalism in those bathrooms. Yeah, I'd say on every other day at certain times of the year, we have an individual likes to light fighters in them. So that's something as we go to put one there, we're gonna have to be mindful of how exactly we do it so we can cut down on those sorts of issues, but yeah. And then we're looking at a doggy do station there too. It's gonna have some signage and some bags and a trash can there. Put it in a spot that's convenient to be emptied, but yeah, one of the comments was that it's way too big, we don't need that many spots. Well, it'll be a gravel lot, so it won't really have designated spots, so, just wanna make sure we have adequate room for keeping it plowed in the winter.
Yeah, it's more like a turnaround.
So, yeah, people can turn around, and then hopefully those, folks that are ice fishing there quit parking on the road, creating such a hazard there, so.
I've had 2 people say, won't it be great to have those cars
Yeah.
gone? in the wintertime.
Well, the other thing with that landing there, I think there will be quite a bit of use there. Because it's be a nice spot for folks to get their kayaks down to the lake, and, you know, that end of the lake with all the standing timber, you know, and the fishing's pretty good in there for smallmouth, and, you know, even for the guys going out there for rainbows, accessing from that end. It's a shorter walk, so.
Well, since we're discussing that, and it's later on our agenda here, do we, we still need a motion to approve that happening, don't we? Because we've held off on it.
Yeah, planning and zoning also had looked at it, and actually Scott was the one that took the comments, so those were the comments that he received. So the next step is recommendation of council for us to move forward with the construction of that area.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I made that motion.
I'll second it. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. And any opposed? All right, motion passes. Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you, Harold.
No problem.
Would you like us to add you into the agenda? We're past the addition of agendas, but we can add anything
We just
in.
finished a little budget meeting, so I figured I'd swing in and see what's going on.
Okay, not a problem. So then, any other further discussion on any of these?
Yeah. Is it possible to get a regular update for our Parks and Rec meetings on the current status of projects and any sort of activity involving the rec center, the park, just a brief
Sure.
synopsis of what's going on, just so we can keep everything, you know,
Sure.
right in
As
front of us.
As you know, we've got a lot of park and recreation activities still going on. I guess just give a little update. The FRTP grant application for Hidden Valley, we did get that submitted. So that'd be another 5.5+ miles of single track trail. Or 5.4 miles at Hidden Valley, then another 2 miles near the college and the Forest Service. So you want 7.2 more miles. So we're hopeful we get funded through the FRTP process again. The construction of that would likely be fall or next spring.
So where does that involve us in the process, and what do we have to say about it, being the Park and Rec Board?
I guess the majority of this is out of Hidden Valley, so it's Ely Bike and Ski Club, you know, and we have a lease with them where they maintain the building, maintain the trails, but we do cover their the insurance requirement by the state out there. So what I've typically done is just kind of kept this group in the loop, and where we need support, you know, where we need recommendation to the council for those types of activities, you know, we can always loop the Park and Rec committee in as well. FRTP grants for both the Snowfield Club and ATV Club. Those are 2 applications that were just submitted as well for trail maintenance and grooming equipment for all the grant-made snowmobile trails and all the grant-made ATV trails. So that's something else we participate in and try to support as far as being a fiscal agent, which pretty much comes to my time, Casey's time, Katie's and Dan's, but that's how those projects get accomplished.
Would it be, I guess, prudent of us to request that those decisions pass through Park and Rec?
Ultimately, it's council's decision, but, you know, as Park and Rec being advisory,
As a vetting,
yeah. And I don't even know if Hidden Valley is really your purview as the way it sits now.
Yeah.
You know, there hasn't ever been a lot of discussion,
Sure.
you know, so.
Similar projects involving Trezona,
Yeah.
Whiteside,
Yeah.
Seniors.
So that's where, again, I think it's, when we start looking at that comprehensive land use plan, you as committee members can think of how you can contribute towards those projects as well and those activities, so. Julie's probably been involved the longest on on Park and Rec, and, you know, a lot of these probably as long as I have, you know,
Well,
as far as project involvement, almost.
15 years I just figured out.
15, okay, well, I've been 20-some, so. But it's, you know, it's, a lot of these projects take many, many different pieces. You know, it takes a lot of time, and over a lot of years, sometimes it feels like you're not getting anywhere, but then all of a sudden, you know, we build 10 miles of single track mountain bike trail out at Hidden Valley that, you know, came as a surprise, you know, that we're able to get that funding, but yeah, I think always looking at how we can advance Park and Rec activities in the community.
So, I think, perhaps someone should make a motion that we add as a continuing agenda item the comprehensive plan and our commitment to outline and define Park and Rec's position and how they will perform as dictated not only by the code, but our involvement in the comprehensive plan, what it requires of us. Also as an agenda item, well, we'll leave it at that for now. If anybody can whittle that down into something more easily understood.
I mean, it makes complete sense to me the way that you have it worded. I'm just curious if we need a motion. Do we need a motion to just have a continuing agenda item?
That's kind of just up to you as a committee, you don't need the council's
Yeah,
direction.
I don't feel like we need a motion, I feel like it should be an agenda.
Motivation.
I might have either take a picture of how you have it written down or ask you to write it down in like in an email or something and send it to me so that way I can make,
In case Bud hasn't.
perfect!
Because I was
Right.
if Bud's not typing, I've got the.
Because I would just want to make sure I have, because how you have it worded is like wonderful. So I just want to make sure that if it is going to be on the agenda, I want to make sure I have at least somewhat close to how you have it worded.
Ongoing agenda, comp plan, outline and define P and R position.
Okay?
So will we be notified when the other groups start working on the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
P and Z is already done.
It's kind of a continuing process. So I know being there's a lot of new members here, I think getting them all a copy of it first, and then so it's something you can start looking at. But,
Would you be able to send that out to us by
Yep.
email?
yep, I'll have Scott scan it and email it to you, the whole comp plan. You can see every department pretty much has a section in there. In Park and Rec, I think, its section probably needs to grow a little bit, you know, just because of the other things that have happened since it was last updated, honestly. You know, a lot of the ATV stuff, a lot of the bike trail stuff. I mean, the Sabi Trail being completed really is a huge piece, so I know it's in there, but I think we can build upon it.
Wonderful.
What's the, did we get the signs for the, what the heck was it? Dog walking area? What signs were we waiting?
Dog-friendly area
Dog friendly
is
area.
what we're gonna do.
Okay,
I think we're still working on how many areas we were gonna post that way,
okay.
so. I think
Will there be signage on the Trezona Trail, marking where this new
Yep,
area is, how far it might be, and the fact that there's a bathroom there?
well, it's halfway, so it's 2 miles in any direction to a bathroom, so I don't think we'll be marking.
It's a good location.
Yeah, yeah.
Extra pit stop for the 4-on-4. Everybody
Yeah.
gets a pit stop on the front.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion on that at all? All right. Going on, so this was brought up at the last meeting about the potential Park and Rec job description. Abby was wonderful enough to type up a kind of a draft of a job description based off of things that we are doing or that we are active in. So thank you, Abby, for giving us up and taking the time to get all this put together. Did everybody get a chance? I mean, I forget how many meetings ago it was. I think it was December. This is the first time. It feels like we didn't meet for a lot longer than that because we missed last month. And then we're meeting late this month. I did have a couple of, I don't know, suggestions or questions on it. Just because as the Park and Rec Commission, I don't know if we have a designated Park and Rec worker, if they would be involved with like the events side of things, of hosting events, because, or like for trail runs, movies in the park, like the 5K, that kind of thing, I don't.
Sure.
So, what was your reading of that?
Well, generally, I'm sorry, I've lost my voice a little bit here, but, all this talk of like the comprehensive plan and Frederick is talking about, like, y'all should like really get in there, is I think where I'm coming from with putting together a job description, because I think there's a ton of potential for Parks and Rec. And it might just be a better comprehensive plan, or maybe not better, but more robust. Or it might also be an additional paid position. So I don't know what direction to go, but that's where I'm coming from. And I just put these things together as like ideas where I see potential. And like, I also have a dream of like having a Parks and Rec logo that we can like put on the sign, you know, that, and I don't know if that's that important, but I feel really proud of Ely and its Parks and Rec. And I think we could do a lot and we should be proud of that. So, yada yada, you're not answering your question yet, sorry.
Would this individual be proposed to come to each Park and Rec meeting, I presume?
In my dream, yes.
Okay, it's not listed here.
Much like Scott for planning and zoning.
Yeah.
Right,
One thing you have to realize, though, you wouldn't be supervising a city employee. Committees, you know, it's not how our,
You're saying the
Structure
committee
is-
doesn't supervise the employee?
No.
No. Yeah.
so I guess first you have to look at it from what duties are needed to be done. You know, and I guess I haven't looked at it, but a lot of those events are already planned by other organizations
Sure.
or the Ely Events Committee.
Yes.
You know, so if there's a role we have to play to participate in those, typically we cover that work by utilizing other paid city staff. The only caveat to that, I would say, is our rink attendance in the winter.
Yes.
You know, and in the past, it was probably a good dozen years ago now, we had beach attendants.
Yeah.
They weren't lifeguards, they were beach attendants, and what we, you know, we ran into some issues having up there, because then they ended up being paid babysitters for parents that just wanted to let their kids go to the beach for the summer. But that would be my only, I just having caution as to what, if you're trying to replace, you know, activities that others are already doing. Because right now, within our planning and zoning administrator's job duty, it is to assist me in park activities. You know, if there's some supervision needed for, say, the rink in the winter, if we ever ran short on rink attendance, and I needed somebody to, you know, run down there and get it cleared. You know, if I didn't have anybody else, Scott would be the guy going down there to take care of that as a part-time city employee. So, also, any impacts on the budget would have to be considered in about June, July, as we start to put our budget together and determine our preliminary levy in September, then final levy in December, of course. So, I'd just say, you know, kind of look at what duties you think you need somebody to do right now before you try to get a position and then figure out what you have to do.
Well, and so,
We're not a solution looking for a problem.
yeah.
Yeah,
And could
Yeah.
we work with you on finding out, you know, in the Park and Rec field, what is needed?
Yeah.
From the city standpoint, from a city worker standpoint,
Yeah.
what would be feasible, you know, because there was discussion when this first got brought up of Does this start out as a full-time position? Does it start out as an internship? Does it start how,
Yeah,
that piece of it?
probably,
So,
probably the last time there was a full-time director was when the ski hill was still open.
okay,
So that was in the late eighties, very early nineties. That was the last time there was a full-time park and recreation. And kind of since then, there's been a lot of pullback in departments just because of the funding requirements. So, you know, if we can get it, Julie's an expert at raising funds for all the programs she puts together. But, you know, that's what it takes. So, I mean, that's what it takes.
Right.
And that's why the city participates in helping ECR to keep those programs going. So that's where I think you see a hole or somewhere we could do something. I would like to put somebody down at the beach again, but they'd be a maintenance person. They wouldn't be a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one summer it was pretty amazing to me. How parents who went there,
I'm sure.
7, 8-year-olds go down there and assume that some 16-year-old beach attendant was a babysitter over all these kids. But, you know, as far as maintenance goes, we put one part-timer on for park maintenance in the summer, one in the utility, one at the utility plants. So it's, you know, trying to keep everybody busy, taking care of, you know, their particular department, so.
okay. So, my next question, I guess, becomes, do we want to focus more on the comp plan and kind of look at, with our comp plan, if it would be feasible to have a worker and to have enough for them to do, if it's something that we, because I guess for, in my opinion, you need to figure out who we are before we start, kind of like when you're dating. You need to find yourself before you try to find someone else. So, do we want to focus on our comp plan so that way we can figure out who we are, what we're in charge of, that piece of it, before we dive into, we want to have a worker, here's what they're going to do, because without knowing what we want them to do. Or,
I think there's a few things that we need to take into account here. And one is to revisit the initial reasoning why we felt that there was a need for a worker in this position. I believe a lot of that had to do with generating funds to sort of self-sustain the position by bringing in additional revenue, whether it's through boat rentals or through, you know, what have you, to help generate revenue to support the position. That way, first of all, we have a financial reason. We don't have to justify working that into a budget if we can create the budget out of that, you know, bring in funds from that to sustain that position. Another part, I think there's a lot here that, like Harold said, that's already being done. And I see this position more as somebody who facilitates, reaches out to community groups, lets people know when certain, you know, we had a cancellation at the rec center, you know, social media on Facebook. If your children would like to have a birthday party there, give us a call. If something would like, blah, blah, you know, so there's a marketing role, there's a facilitator role as far as making things easier and accessible to people. So I think those are the roles we're looking to really outline, as opposed to a job description. It would be what roles and how do we generate revenue. And I've also received a lot of interest, and there's been a lot of action in other communities in regards to sustainability. A lot of people have these sustainability task forces, you know, to whenever there's a project, they might say, have we considered what the runoff is, the water runoff? Have we considered shade trees? Have we considered, you know, all these different things that people like you and I may not consider when we put projects together or work on developing parks in certain areas, you know, like down there on Pioneer. You know, there may be some, can those lights be solar powered?
A lot of that's dictated by MPCA rules and DNR, you know, and also like funding sources. like both for the library and for our trailhead, those will be D3. So that's a requirement of the state of Minnesota utilizing their funds. So say the trailhead, that'll actually, it has to have solar on the roof. It's, it went through sustainability of all the building materials and, probably increase the cost about 25%, but that's how you make sure that all those things are touched upon in your project proposal. So I don't know if that necessarily would be a task for someone facilitating, but maybe it's more of a coordinator. I think of like the senior center right now. That's where they are filling the role of a lot of community events are being held at the senior center. Also at our Miners Drive building with Ely Arts and Heritage, all the events being held there, they're doing that with the volunteer committee. Billers does a lot of that scheduling, and Nick Wadman on that committee. So you have people that are trying to do all these things on these other committees that probably need a little bit of assistance.
Yeah.
So that could be a piece as well, just coordination of these facilities. Like when you spoke of like a financial piece to it, rentals and renting equipment, that sort of thing. Yeah, ultimately it'd be great if you could set the rents at a level where you could facilitate, maintain the building, but we all know that's pretty tough, and that's kind of where a lot of these places run into a problem.
I know for a fact there are people out there that are wondering how to get access to some of the city's loan programs for updating what's the wall heat now that somebody recently did? It's like when you do those.
Geothermal,
Yeah, like
heat pumps.
yeah, like heat pumps.
Yeah, it's right in our Energy Star rebates to our
Yep,
utility.
and
On our
Energy Star
website.
rebates. And people are finding difficulties and hurdles in navigating our webpage to find those resources. Again, as falling under the responsibilities of, our green man here, or our green person that we're looking for, to be employee of, or an arm of Parks and Rec, but also taking on duties in regards to sustainability. Can we spread this position through other committees in a way, Harold said, as a facilitator?
But is that facilitating? If you spread them out, where basically you're making this person work for other committees. Because if you're saying that this person would be in charge of, making the website more, user-friendly, all that kind of stuff, for Park and Rec stuff, sure. But if this is somebody who's specifically for Park and Rec, then you're looking at things like the loans that the city has for the homes in the area, for the businesses in the area. That doesn't fall under Park and Rec.
No, that's not, I'm not saying working on the website. I'm saying providing access to those loans is a part of the sustainability, which.
Sustainability.
Well, we're going down a road of like making up ideas of what this person's gonna do. Can we come back to where of like, how do we move forward with this? If this goes in the comp plan or?
Well, it's questionable whether or not the person can perform strictly duties for Park and Rec.
And
So-
that's something that would come up during the comp plan.
Comes during the comp plan, I think, like Morgan was saying, we need to figure out our identity, what we're in charge of, everything else in terms of that, and then this can blossom out of, hey, here's what it is. Then let's add to the well-done job description that has been started, and then we can, hey, now we have a motion or a proposal or something to move forward on, but I think we're just like adding to a job description that maybe we want, maybe we don't, where that's not where we're at yet.
Well, I don't think
It's
it
just
would
what I'm
hurt to examine, the feasibility and have the discussion at all, because if anything, it's gonna lead us into some ideas that are worth considering once we do, take.
So are you thinking of an overarching thing that would perhaps be half for this purpose and half for some other purpose?
If we can sustain a position within Parks and Rec, yeah.
Sure.
So something to consider when we address it.
Yeah.
It's like the comp plan.
we have on what we need would be enough for a full-time position, and if not, maybe reaching out to those other committees and commissions to see if they want to partner with us on some of them. Because there is definitely some overlap with a lot of the stuff that we're doing with other commissions. Like right now with planning and zoning, all the different stuff that's happening with them, with the layout. So, absolutely.
Harold, how is Scott's, he's part-time there?
Yeah, part-time.
And he's part-time with Ely Police?
Yeah,
Okay.
2 separate positions.
So there's no way that he could migrate into a full-time position where this might fall within his role?
Not yet. It's not. Right now, council has allowed part-time officers, and we've got a memorandum of understanding with the LERS union. So that's where Scott is filling one of those positions, and actually, Scott's position in planning and zoning is a city position, laid out in a bargaining agreement. So that is permanent part-time position. As far as if additional duties were added to that position, we just have to revise that job description and, amend the amount of hours required for that position.
So we may already have the person available. It's my.
Depending on
Depending on
what the tasks are, getting back to what exactly are you looking for.
Right.
So, and that position has been part-time for a very long time. And it ebbs and flows when there's a lot of work to be done, like comp plan, conditional use permits, variances. Those weeks are busier than weeks where there isn't a lot of those tasks. So that's where certainly something, once you put a list together of the things you're thinking you'd like to accomplish, then let's take a look at how we can work through that.
Yeah.
I wanted to get another part-timer for the parks and kind of dedicate him to the parks. It's tough. It's tough finding somebody.
Abby, you had something?
Well, I like the idea of, I'll let you know. And I do like the idea of like getting all of our ideas on the table, doing a comp plan, comparing it to what's already in existence, like are we doing what we're saying we do, whatever. I think that's great. And probably coming up with some new ideas. And one thing that's just popping up in my brain is like, we're missing like a voice, like when the garden club was here, be like, we don't know how to get new people in the garden club. Like, I felt like there was an opportunity for some voice from us, like, communicating to the community, being like, hey, this kind of falls under us, and we're recruiting for the garden club, just as an easy example. And so, I don't know if we can expedite something like that.
I think Ms. Ferry was asking if all you would join the garden.
I went a couple times. I
Yeah,
was like,
they do a phenomenal job. Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
We'll work on retirees' hours and not
Yeah.
workers'
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, that's the biggest part.
It's Tuesdays at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Tell Dave Marshall we'll be busy that day.
Yeah.
I'll show up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true though. And what they've voiced in the past is what ends up happening is a lot of times new groups are formed.
Yeah.
So then, like, there'll be a new committee working on something, and they're kind of, well, we're the garden committee, and
Yeah.
we've been doing all this for years, and we kind of got forgotten. So
Yeah.
I think that's where it's great that she's been coming on an annual basis. And what we've tried to do also in the past is invite the softball association, invite the other groups that are utilizing the parks, the chamber, of course, so Park and Rec is aware of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Another thing that's, some communities like leagues, whether it be softball league or summer baseball or summer softball leagues, some of those are ran through a rec department. Here it's more of ran through committees,
Yeah.
for softball, for little league, and that's how it's been forever.
Right.
Softball, same thing, so that's where we end up participating and helping them
Yeah.
in certain aspects, but not necessarily running
Right.
their league, so.
And same thing, I just heard, I haven't played softball, but I heard that this summer there was like lower enrollment or less players in softball. And I, again, I just felt like that was an opportunity for somebody to be like, reach other networks of like, hey, do you want to play softball? Have you heard that softball happens in Ely? And like, maybe that inner softball network, just, you know, they just need to branch out to other networks or whatever. And I thought that was another opportunity for us to help.
Yeah, that's kind of been region-wide, a lot of the leagues.
Nice, yeah. I mean, there's so many people in Ely who I'm sure would be stoked to play softball, but just haven't heard about it.
A lot of leagues have been on the decline for years now, so Ely isn't immune to that either. I don't think
Sure.
Cabot has a league anymore.
They don't come up here.
Yeah,
So
so
does
it's,
Tower.
yeah, Tower, a couple guys from Tower come up.
Tower team and a Babbitt team.
Yeah, but they used to have their own league in Babbitt, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea to try and reach out to them early and try to get additional teams put together, because
Yeah,
like the softball complex, I don't know if all of you are aware, but that city land, and they had a lease from the city, the softball association had a lease from the city to utilize that land to maintain.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that has been since 1982, I think.
Wow, it's a long
So,
standing.
yeah. Jerome's been part of that since day one, so.
So who's gonna reach out to them, I guess? So
I have a member of the softball team and happy to reach out to.
Okay, what about like?
Bucko and Jerome and Alex are kind of the main
From
three.
Little League, you wanna hear from?
Ryan Anderson is who I worked with all last summer on the projects there. Girls softball, I don't know who the contact is there, but that is on city land, so both those fields are on city property.
Yeah.
The infield of the girls softball field and then the entire Little League field is on city property, so.
And we have a volleyball league that started up last year on Fridays.
That's why we built the second sand volleyball court, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think if those groups come in, the way I see it is being like, hi, tell us what you're doing and how can we help? Is one, and maybe that's not what.
Softball shows up each year.
We need
Yeah,
them here to report. Do they report regularly? Should we request that they come in and speak?
the only one that I can remember coming in annually, like, every year is Catherine with gardening.
Sure.
I know that the chambers come in a couple of times when things have come up for their events. I know that, I think I remember softball coming in.
Softball, we worked with Harold, redid some benches, we got a new roof on it.
Yeah.
Looking long-term for fences, and yet those are expensive.
Yeah. But you pick away at them a little bit at a time, you know, and that's what keeps those programs going.
Yeah.
And
So are we leaning on you to reach out to these folks and encourage them to?
Well, it's usually been done by members of the Park and Rec Committee, because majority of the time, they're part of these groups, so. You know, and it's always good to do it like this time of year, so you don't start doing it when they're getting their seasons rolling.
Yeah.
So same thing with Ely Bike and Ski Club. We used to have an annual meeting with them as well to go over, but, you know, I see them probably on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Just going out there and working with them on those projects, so. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of making sure, because what's the worst thing that happen is somebody comes in with a need in, say, June, and there's not a whole lot you can do because it hasn't been discussed, it hasn't been budgeted, and we put our budget together starting in June for the next year. So it's just trying to keep everybody in the loop.
Yeah, get ahead of some things.
I can reach out to girls softball. I know that there is some confusion among the leaders there about who owns the land and who does any maintenance.
Well, we did a whole bunch of maintenance to it last fall, after I learned that the school was mowing it, but there hadn't been a lot of other things,
Yeah.
because it was kind of that forgotten part, so we did a lot of work to it, cut down the outfield, so there was a big bump coming off the clay. You know, if you hit a ground ball, you could probably bounce it off the bump right over the infielders, but, or outfielders.
That's home court advantage.
Yeah. Kind of like which softball field is it down there with the cattails growing in the outfield?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you're a good hitter and you can place them there, you're home free. But yeah, no, it's just a matter of keeping everybody in the loop, and, you know, softball, that's a good example of, you know, it's been a long-standing arrangement. You know, and they are required to provide us, insurance on an annual basis for their league. So if somebody was to be hurt out there, you know, it would be the league's insurance.
Yeah.
So, you know, part of it's just making sure we cover our liabilities, you know, and then making sure everybody understands that. Same thing, in Valley, they have their own insurance. We also have insurance on the property, being it's on school trust land. Little League, an example, we had those straight line winds that year, and it blew the bleachers off of the first baseline into center field. Ended up being the Little League had paid for all that equipment. It wasn't insured, so I was able to get that insured through the city's policy. So it's, you know, it's things like that. I think the one dugout for the girls softball field was damaged that time too. I think the school's insurance covered that, being that was an improvement they made. So it's, you know, it's just the things you'd not even think about, that I think about, just to make sure that, you know, we don't have some calamity and problems.
I think everybody's hurting for people, whether it be for these volunteer groups, the activity groups, I mean, employers, everybody's hurting for people. And so I think even just us as people going out and saying, hearing somebody say, yeah, I used to play softball, I want to get back into it, how do I get, I've got just the people that you can talk to, kind of a thing. Or even like with the gardening club, sending people over there who, like my partner, he's off during the summer, so I was like, hey, if you enjoy gardening, go over and go check.
And they'll teach you a lot.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that we can look into, and having more of that open voice of like, come talk to us. Come talk to us, come let us know what you're doing, how things are going, if there's anything that we can do to help. Especially for those groups where we have that overlap.
Random thought, you know when we're getting the other bronze canoe?
It'll be in July.
July.
Yeah,
Cool.
Dr. Rob emailed me just recently, and they had all the bronze pieces made, and they're starting to weld it together, so it's gonna weigh about 1,600 pounds, I think. So, yeah, we'll crane it in, and
Is it gonna be as big as they said it was gonna be, or is it gonna
14 feet,
be? Okay.
yeah, so,
The other one was supposed to be 4, remember?
yeah, it's,
Exactly.
well, when you look at the,
It's cool.
I'm still blown away by the amount of money
Yeah.
to get those things built. So they'll be cool. We'll look at some task lighting for it too, just kind of spotlight onto it. And the other thing with the park we're looking at doing is we're working with CTC to add a dedicated internet service into the park. So then we look at when there's park events, we might have opportunity then to offer that Wi-Fi for vendors or do something for fee, and then maybe add a couple more cameras within the park itself to get a little better view of some of those things. I was thinking if we could get a camera that could see that bronze sculpture, I think that would probably pick up some pretty cool numbers. So yeah, it's something else we're looking at right now.
Find out who's breaking those glass bottles on
Yeah.
the trail every year.
Yeah.
Every year, glass bottle, broken glass, right on the paved trail. My kids are out there in flip-flops.
Yeah, totally.
Who is doing this? Good.
We'll
I'm
never
all
be.
for cameras.
I never told you about how I appreciated the decorations, the lights on the big spruce tree this year
Oh,
were beautiful.
yeah, well, that's another project we've kind of been working on too, is our snowflake lighting on our light poles.
Yeah.
They were purchased in 2007, and a lot of them are starting to short out. So we're looking at what our next iteration of holiday lighting will be. The thing is, those snowflakes are about $900 a piece. So if you look at what we got, it's probably about $60,000 or $70,000 worth of lighting fixtures. So that's where we're trying to see if we do something different in the park or $900 of light fixtures.
When did we ever have enough money for that?
The chamber paid half, and they were all income incandescent fixtures prior to that, so electric utility paid the other half.
Wow.
So that's probably what we propose going into the future, but that's something that'll take, every group to work together.
Yeah.
Credible Ely, they're looking at it, we'll look at it, electric utility will look at it, but, just trying to do something maybe a little different. Something about it's, like they say, it'd be nice to do some sort of designated lighting project in the park, kind of like what Emlith has. They've got maybe reindeer, maybe a Santa Claus, maybe a few of those, but those things are like $500 a piece too, but.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
just about to say,
just
around
on
a
a
little belly
smaller-
bell.
A smaller scale, but.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Probably not in 2024, but maybe in 2025. So that's where, when you start thinking about budgetary items, we can't do it all, but if we can, kind of hold in on.
So our budget,
Bud, you mentioned the lady who lives across the street from the park with all of her decorations. Just talk to her, she has
Yeah.
enough decorations for
Laura.
her
That's
little
Laura
yard
Edwards,
that'll
solid.
fill up our
Ed's-
park.
Ed's one of our linemen. Yeah, that's Laura and Ed that put up all the Halloween lighting and, Christmas, yeah, absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. We got kind of off track, but is there any further discussion on the park and rec job, or are we good? Right now, we're gonna work on our comp plan, and then we'll kind of circle back once we figure stuff out.
yeah, just to understand this, the Park and Rec budget is managed by Projects Committee.
No.
It's held under.
Me.
I'm sorry?
By me,
Oh.
M-E.
So we develop our budget, it's got its own spot in there.
Yep.
And anything under 3,000, we can just go through instant approval without the council.
Yep.
Anything more, we have to seek council approval.
Yep, or if it's outside of what's been budgeted.
Or outside of what's been
Correct.
budgeted. Okay.
And our fiscal year is June to June? January to December?
Yep, but we have to get our budget together in June,
By June.
July.
Sure.
We set our preliminary levy in September and then our final levy in December. So if you want it in the budget, it's gotta be in there by September, because more than likely, you're not gonna get it added after the preliminary levy is set.
Got it.
So that's the highest number ours can be is in September, and then from there, typically the council wants to pare that down as far as the levy increase by our December meeting.
Well, one thing that I really need to mention, and I think I've mentioned it before, is that I feel sometimes we underappreciate the purpose of this board. A majority of the people living in this community and the townships outside of this community are here because the parks and the recreation that's available to them. A lot of people are active in the outdoors. A lot of people love their parks. Whenever I bring my children to Seamers and I'm about to go down that hill, I stand at the guardrail. It's still not old, and I know over time you become desensitized to it, but I still stand at the top of that hill and I say to myself, how lucky am I to live in a place where this is our public park? There's an island, there's a bridge, there's a beach, the seaplanes are taking off, and we have this beautiful backdrop. And how lucky are we? And for this board, we need to remember that, we have a major role in making those things beautiful, keeping those things beautiful, enhancing them when we have the opportunity, so that the people that live here can continue to appreciate those things, and people visiting can just be blown out of their shoes. I want to live here too. I want to enjoy this because we got something special, and we should be very thankful and proud to have that.
And I think what oftentimes you forget is what we've done to get it there, because I can tell you what we've done in the last 24 years. It's like 20 years ago, there wasn't sewer down there. We added
Well,
city
it
sewer.
was just in check.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? And then we added the ADA trail, and through a donation, we added the pavilion and the barbecue grill, and through the Northern Bedrock Conservation Group, they restored those old stone, you know, so, yeah, you start, you know, I'm always geared on what are we doing next, and what do we have to get done next, maybe less so of, you know, what we've done to get to this point, so, but that's a good point, Adam, is not to lose sight of that, because sometimes we get too centered on what are we doing next, not what are we gonna do to make sure we maintain that. We did a restoration project on all the log buildings in Whiteside Park. We actually had to pick up the band shell and take out, what was it, Julie, 3 courses of logs
Yes.
that were rotted out. You know, obviously when they built it, nobody ever thought you'd have to jack it up and remove rotted logs. But those are just things that, you know, every few years we gotta go in there and do a restoration project on the logs to make sure that we're keeping them sealed. So, you know, it's good to always kind of step back and look at it. One thing that the Park and Rec Board used to do too is they'd rotate meeting sites in the summer and go to Whiteside Park, or go to Seamers Park, or, you know, just have a meeting there, especially when we're working on like a playground project and things like that, so you're a little more connected with it, so.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
I'm down for field trips for
Oh,
our
absolutely.
I mean, how many of you have been out to Hidden Valley and seen the single track mountain bike trails?
Shred.
Awesome.
Shred.
Most of you, which is good.
All right, moving on to our next agenda item, which is the Wolf backpacking
It's
race.
the bike pack, just to
Oh, bike pack.
clear it up.
Bike packing.
It's bike
Oh, yes, bike packing, it should be bike packing. So, is everybody familiar with, they've been coming for the last few years.
The old Heck Epic,
Yep, they'll request to use, and I think they've done it in the park at Whiteside, and then it looks like, Seamers the last
Seamers
couple
has
times.
been the majority of the years, I think.
Yeah. And so it's just coming to us to see if they're okay to use the pavilion again. From my understanding, they've been excellent
Oh, yeah.
about cleaning up afterwards. They really uphold to that, leave no trace, leave it better than you found it kind of a thing.
It's already been a year.
Okay, just-
This has already been a year. This is incredible. This has already been a year.
Do they rent the
Did
pavilion?
we just approve this?
Yeah, I think so. I think they have.
Yep, and I think in Jeremy's initial email, they are, amenities of the summer, logistics would be the same, about 65 riders camping on the shoreline, renting a pavilion as well.
Oh, yeah.
We leave the bathrooms open for them. Yeah.
We need a motion to
Allow
recommend,
camping.
to allow camping.
I will make that.
I'll second it.
First Aspen, second Julie, any further discussion?
Dogs, didn't they have dogs down there last year? A couple of them or something?
I don't remember.
And
I don't remember.
are we permitting?
No dogs.
Dogs aren't allowed at Seamers?
Nope. No dogs on
Only
That-
2.
That's news to me.
there. Only Marty's running.
German short.
No,
That's why I'm a little bit confused, because I've seen the German Shorthairs, but I've seen other people bring their dogs to Seamers, so that's why it's news to me that it's not.
that is not a dog-friendly area.
I know.
Despite what you think about the sign that says no dogs in beach area, it
Yeah.
actually means in the entire.
In the entire area.
Oh, interesting.
That's really
Well,
good.
we usually ask ECR to do some food for the rides.
That's right.
Oh, really?
I haven't heard from them yet.
Interesting.
Do you remember the weather when they ran it last year? On that Friday? It was pouring rain.
Yeah.
Dr. Anderson went and rode with them from Babbitt down the snowmobile trail, and it was brutal. I was at the bike shop when those guys were coming through, and there was guys
Just.
looking for wheels and derailleurs, and just was
Alvin's best.
rattled their bikes apart. Yeah.
So, would it be that we would need to add an addendum of people are allowed to camp and use the pavilion, but no dogs.
That's already a standing rule,
Yeah,
so I
it's
don't
a
think.
standing
Okay.
We don't need to add anything, and none of these bike riders showed up with a dog.
Yeah.
Because they just rode hundreds of miles, whatever else. It's
Yeah.
other people, and I'd assume Ely community members that are like, oh, my people's here, my husband's in this race, my wife's in this race, I'm gonna go camp and bring our dog, and it's cute.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I remember that.
It's not the bike riders themselves
This was,
that are
this event,
having a dog
someone
in the
requested
trail.
that last year. Whether or
The
not-
marathon. The marathon was when we had that
Yeah.
request.
They've already done
It
it,
was the marathon, yes,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
But,
so you can do the half marathon with
With
a
your
dog.
dog, and then,
yeah,
and
which,
in the park with your dog.
Right, as long as it's direct.
They've advertised.
Thank you, Harold, that was.
Mhm.
yeah, no, to run a half marathon with your dog, whatever. Each their own.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that to my dog.
all right.
I wouldn't let my wife do it.
Any other further discussion on this? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, hearing none, our recommendation will go to council. And then last, but definitely not least, Abby had sent me about, some trail center planning, or the trailhead stuff.
Cool.
So would you like to?
Totally. So I've got two things for this, and again, it's all about potential. But I just was thinking about, I think about uniting Ely. That's a core thing for me. I sense divide, and I try to find ways, natural, organic ways to bring different groups together. And I think the Trail Center is like loud and clear an opportunity to do that. And so I was like, oh man, there's gotta be like a grand opening party, and we make sure every like trail user group is invited, and like, there's something special about that, of like, the bikers are there, the hikers are there, the ATV people are there, the snowmobilers, yada yada. And I just wanted to like, I don't know if we have a budget for parties, or how this could work, but I just thought that could be in our wheelhouse of being like, oh yeah, Parks and Rec is at the Trail Center, and we're hosting an event. And maybe we don't host events. Anyway, it might not make sense, but I just wanted to like put it in the world.
Well, and so, coming from, so I used to work at the chamber, and the chamber is the one who, they kind of organize like ribbon cuttings, if there's any, if any business is doing like a grand opening, usually when that gets put out, the chamber will reach out and be like, hey, we've got the big scissors, and we've got the red ribbon, and they kind of are the ones who they get in touch with, you know, they bring the ribbon, they bring the scissors, they get in touch with the mayor. I know that when YMCA Camp Northern Lights opened up, we got in touch with the mayor here, as well as the mayor in Babbitt, and then also even had Paul McDonald come up out there. So I think that it would, when the time comes, I mean, I'm not sure at what point we would want to have this like grand celebration of the trailhead. It would definitely be something that we'd be able to help coordinate, and it's just a matter of if any of these groups are wanting to bring in like, we want to provide refreshments, we want to do this. We'll have to work with them, because I don't know if we would have any kind of.
Usually I've
pressure
got to
for it.
provide all that, so. Well, that'd be good.
Yeah,
To have some participation, but yes, we will definitely have a ribbon cutting. We definitely be inviting our legislators, present and past, those
Yeah.
that helped get the state bonding money. Our federal legislators that helped us get the EDA, federal grant for it. So, yeah, we'll certainly put something together. No, I think that's a good idea, because that was really the intent of that center. And why we got a federal EDA grant was because of, you know, the need for additional economic development, especially
Sure.
during the pandemic, and how that will provide more outdoor use, which we've seen the outdoor use really grow, you know, during and after the pandemic. So yeah, we'll have all the trail groups involved, and DNR, of course, with the Taconite Trail, and
Yeah.
the Wasabi Trail, being their trail, is gonna have a kind of connection right there as well. So yeah, it would probably be about a year from now is what I'm expecting.
Cool, cool.
well, if I remember correctly, wasn't there at one point too reaching out to the different like like art organizations or groups to see about getting some sort of something in there.
Yeah, I don't know so much about
But it was worth bringing that up about just the fact of
Yeah.
already trying to bring people in and bring people
Yeah,
together.
it-
for it.
It's kind of meant to be a visitor center, wayside rest.
Yep.
You know, for people that first stop when they get to town,
Totally.
pull in there, use the restroom, walk their dog, take a look at the, you know, whatever information will be available there.
Vending machine.
That sort of thing, pop machine, you know, if you're coming in there by ATV or by bicycle, you know, our restrooms will have like little locker cubbies so people can take their gear off and kind of refresh themselves and then go sit in a kind of a community area we're gonna have with some seating and maybe a little fireplace. And also we're hoping, the Tourism Bureau actually is looking to do maybe something there, and then US Forest Service having some staff there in the summer to help maybe reduce the pressure down on their ranger station for people that are just coming into town and want some information. So I think it's got a lot of potential.
Would there be a dumping station for RVs? Like,
No, we'll
just the one over.
utilize the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
People are coming through, and if that's the first stop, maybe
Yeah,
they've
no,
got
it's too far upstream.
That's
a
true.
pump station there.
That's
so,
very true.
Yeah.
I was
We-
just, oh, go ahead.
Nope.
I was just at the aquatic invasive species meeting today, and an idea came up that maybe a clean, drain, dry boat washing station could be there in that parking lot.
Yeah, we can see about that.
Don't sound too excited now.
Yeah, well, you know, we own those wash stations. Those are
Right.
city Ely's. Yeah. I don't know if that, we'll see. I don't want to, it's kind of difficult, to get,
And you want them to drive through town, you know, you can't just let them do it there, you gotta say, no, drive to the chamber.
yeah,
See all that? See
stop
what
and
we have?
look.
The whole street.
Stop at,
Two
yeah,
miles of glory.
yeah, all the stores it can stop at. No, that's something we'll take a look at, but
And then, is there any other development that anybody has proposed for the enchanted cedar forest?
no.
The,
Oh, well, good.
the what?
The enchanted cedar forest that is right next door.
Yeah, my idea has always been to put a
Oh,
boardwalk
yeah.
through there of some sort.
Well,
Perfect, that is just so beautiful.
It's amazing.
well, that was my second thing for this, is the boardwalk in the Cedars one. Because there could be an intersection there between the city, Parks and Rec, whatever, and the North Country Trail.
Yeah, yeah.
And even potentially, like, if we wanted to swing it as like an environmental learning center type of place, which is maybe a curveball, but
No,
I don't know,
so
there's something, there could be a big intersection of some groups.
field naturalist
Yeah.
stuff, and yeah, no, it'd be cool.
And if
I
we're
think
looking into grants and stuff. having that
LCCMR would probably be a good opportunity for that.
What did you say, sorry?
LCCMR,
Okay. I don't know
What's
what
that
that is.
stand
Legislative Committee.
MMR.
Yeah, I forgot.
MMR.
Applied a few times. Our legislators are on it.
Oh.
Yeah, but having that like, and that educational edge can open access to different money sources and stuff too, for building something like that.
Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources.
Nice, solid.
Kaylee Hodelin just asked us yesterday about a place she could take her class to, you know, that was walkable from school, and that, right now they're going to the old cemetery area behind the former,
I heard that's popular, people are just dying.
Just took the opportunity.
What's unfortunate is we used to have Dave Tomasoni and Rob Eklund were both on LCCMR board as a state senator and a state representative, but right now it looks like.
Oh, yeah, they got the new guy there.
Yeah,
I was
I
just
think
reading about
Grant's-
this.
Josh Hensman's on it. Yeah, this is from 24, so.
Okay. So is there any further discussion on this? It's
Yeah, I've actually shown it on our concept drawing for quite a few years, having a nature walk in there, but yeah.
I remember some really nice walks through Ely Park in Duluth. It's about a 40-acre, I believe, report.
Hartley Park, you said?
Yeah,
Ely
Yep.
Park.
yeah.
It's just wonderful nature walks. And then back in New York, we've got, where I'm from, there's one that runs boardwalks and right along a small creek and through just some groves. And it's just, you know, you go as a kid and you look for the monarch butterflies and there's, you know, a little thing that says, you know, this type of bird and, you know, hey, there's that type of bird.
Yeah.
What's nice here is it's so close,
Yeah.
you know, you don't have to go
Absolutely.
right off the road.
The middle school that I went to in Duluth, before they got their new building, their backyard was Hartley. And so every year they have what was called the Amazing Race, which is every homeroom for the entire day, every homeroom would go to Hartley, and there would be different stations all throughout the park that you have to go to, and some of them were like GPS location or like geocaching, huge outdoor kind of stuff. And the goal was, just like the Amazing Race, the goal was to go through all of the different stations and be the first group back. And then you won, I think we got like a pizza party for your homeroom if you won or something. But I think, like Julie said, having that opportunity for kids here would be amazing.
Really cool.
Kind of have the entrance right by the wizard that's carved in that
Yeah,
dead stand.
totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally. The Wetland Committee.
Any other agenda items, additions, any further discussion on anything, or?
The rink's closed.
Rink is closed, okay.
There's no way we're gonna revitalize it one more time.
Oh, gosh.
No.
Maybe,
We spent the next 2 days getting it flooded. By Friday, it'll be melted again.
I was gonna say, you mean we can't have a rink in 50-degree weather?
Hey, I tell you what, Mark and Marcus did some wonders this winter, keeping the thing going, so.
Yes, they did. All right.
Mark has an idea for helping if we get this sort of winter again, if we can keep the water before the ice is built up from going under the boards.
Oh,
It would, you know, be much quicker. He has an idea.
usually it's not an issue.
Spray.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn,
Here's the
or, oh, yeah.
There was a question earlier, Harold, regarding meeting laws and the release of our minutes.
Oh, yes. Oh,
The what?
Open meeting laws, and then the draft minutes, and then the approved minutes, and when can each set be released to the public?
Well, typically your draft minutes are what we have available for the council. So then if you do have a meeting and there are revisions to your minutes, you know, those will be reflected in your next revised minutes. So those are the minutes that then would become part of the record, would be your revised minutes. But typically there are not any revisions, so you just have to make note of that. Yeah, as far as open meeting, just if a quorum of the committee meets to discuss Park and Rec meeting agenda items, it's a quorum.
I think there were some questions regarding email votes or phone votes.
Yeah, you can't do that. No. Unless there's a public emergency that the governor calls, and then the mayor follows up with, allowing meetings by Zoom or meetings by teleconference. They are by quorum of the committee in person at your meeting location. So, I'd say things that are fine is if an email goes out and asks for agenda items, but not necessarily if you're voting on anything. That's what the open meeting is for. So try to refrain to respond all. If you do get an email, just respond back to the chair. That's about it.
So posting the draft minutes is more or less for kind of transparency and making people aware of what the conversation or the discussion
Well,
were about.
Those minutes are what's on the council agenda, and that's what Adam reports to the council on, if there's action items there. And then what I'm saying is at the next meeting is when your body meets, and then approves those minutes. And if there's any revisions, those revisions are then reflected in your minutes, that there was a mistake, this was revised.
It's more,
And then-
there was questions about the minutes, I guess, getting posted. I think it posted on the, I know that they get posted on the website. How long does it take for them to get posted?
Yeah, it's
There is-
typically part of the council agenda,
Okay,
is when we require those minutes to be made available.
okay,
So, next council meeting is, the 12th of March, because of the primary election on the 5th. So that's when those minutes would be posted on that agenda.
okay. And I think we meet the Monday after that council meeting. Yep. All right, well, so we had a motion to adjourn by Aspen. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
All right, wonderful. Any opposed? Not hearing any. I'm not gonna ask if anybody approves. Well, any yays for